3 seconds. From turn around, let me see the back of that dress, to the moment I saw my husband zipping up another woman in the hotel dressing room mirror. 3 seconds is enough for a marriage to shatter. Enough for an ER nurse like me to understand my job is not to save everything. Some things have to die, and then be dissected for everyone to see. This is the story of the night I stopped being a good wife. I am Adeline Turner. I am 34 years old, night shift charge nurse at Aidenwire Medical Center, in an American city so small no one bothers to print it on a postcard. And this is the story of the night I stopped being the good wife, to become the person who rewrote my life's script with a family brunch choreographed like a public trial. It started at the Glass House Hotel, the annual Edenwire Hospital Foundation Gala. The air was thick with the smell of old money, new perfume, and the lilies decomposing in the centerpieces. I was in the auxiliary dressing room, a small, plush space smelling of hairspray and anxiety, trying to feel human in a sapphire blue gown that cost more than my first car. The zipper was stiff. My husband, Lucas Turner, was there, looking like the man of the year in his tailored tux. "Turn around," he said, his voice smooth as the silk of his lapels. "Let me see how the dress falls." I turned. The wall opposite was a single sheet of mirror, designed to make the small space feel grand. It reflected the row of changing cubicles behind me, and in that mirror, in the reflection of the cubicle right next to mine, I saw him. He was zipping up her dress. Harper Lane, the Foundation's event planner, young, ambitious, and currently wearing a pale satin dress that clung to her. Lucas's hand was not helping a colleague. His hand was splayed flat against the bare, vulnerable skin of her lower back, his thumb grazing her spine as the zipper climbed. It was not a fumbling rescue. It was a practiced, proprietary gesture. It was ownership. Those 3 seconds. From the ballroom, a muffled string quartet was playing something forgettable and expensive. I could hear the distant, sharp clink of crystal flutes. I saw my husband's hand, the same hand that co-signed our mortgage, slide up that satin. I saw her eyes. Harper's eyes met mine in the glass. They widened, first with the shock of being caught, and then worse with a flash of defiant familiarity. This wasn't a mistake. This was a routine. I didn't breathe. My feet felt welded to the floor. My brain, the one I count on to run a trauma bay at 3 a.m., did what it always does. It went cold. It began to triage, assess the scene, proximity of bodies intimate, facial expressions his, focused and smiling faintly before he saw me. Hers, relaxed, leaning back into his touch. Diagnosis betrayal. History, not acute, chronic. This was not the first time. All the late nights he'd blamed on budget meetings. All the times he'd angled his phone away from me on the couch. All the networking dinners that left a faint, unfamiliar floral scent on his suit. They weren't my insecurities. They were symptoms. This mirror was the positive lab result. His gaze lifted from her back and found mine in the reflection. He jolted. The blood drained from his face, leaving his tan looking artificial. He snatched his hand back from her skin as if he had just touched an open wound, a contaminated surface. He recovered in less than a second. The politician's smile, the one he used on hospital donors, snapped into place. He stepped out of the cubicle, his body physically shielding her from my line of sight. "Adeline, honey, perfect timing," he said, his voice a grotesque imitation of cheerfulness. "This is Harper. She's the genius running this whole event. The zipper on her dress was hopelessly stuck, a complete wardrobe malfunction. Just helping out." I smiled. It was the smile I used for the hospital board, the one I give to the condescending surgeon who questions my nurse's assessment. It is a bright, polished, impenetrable wall of professional courtesy. It shows all my teeth, a single thought, sharp and cold as a scalpel, cut through my shock. "If you'd zipped her down another 6 inches, Lucas, would you have explained it as checking her reflexes?" "Of course," I said. My voice was even. I looked past his shoulder at Harper, who was now clutching a small wrap to her chest. her face a mask of panicked regret. "A pleasure, Adeline Turner. The ballroom looks incredible. You've done a wonderful job." Lucas saw his opening, the return to normalcy. "She's amazing, isn't she?" He slid his arm around my waist. It felt heavy. Wrong. He began to steer me, physically maneuvering my body away from the scene, out of the dressing room, toward the grand entrance of the ballroom. "Let's go. I think the CEO is about to speak." The transition was violent, from the cold, fluorescent-lit silence of the betrayal to the wall of noise, perfume, and forced laughter. The glittering chandeliers felt hot and accusatory. He was instantly on Lucas Turner, the rising financial director of Edenwire Medical, the devoted husband. He grabbed 2 glasses of champagne from a passing tray and handed one to me. "To us," he murmured, just loud enough for the couple standing next to us to hear and smile. He clinked glasses with the department head. "Dr. Wells, great to see you. You know my wife, Adeline." He leaned in and kissed my temple. The gesture was for the audience. "She's the real hero," he announced to the group. "Just pulled a double shift in the ER, saving lives while the rest of us are just drinking champagne." A few people nearby smiled at me with that vague, respectful pity people save for nurses. I smiled back. I felt like a specimen under glass. He was using my competence, my exhaustion, my scrub-earned nobility, as his social currency, as his shield. I kept smiling. I kept sipping the champagne. It tasted like saline. And in my head, I started a new chart. My memory is clinical, precise. Incident: illicit physical contact, observed. Subject 1, Lucas Turner. Subject 2, Harper Lane. Location: Glasshouse Hotel. Female auxiliary dressing room. Number 2. Timestamp: 1943 hours. Witness A, Turner. I watched him work the room, his hand never leaving the small of my back, but his eyes kept darting to his phone. He angled his body, using me as a shield from the room, to check a message. I saw him type a quick, furtive reply. Vitals unstable. Patient critical. He was worried about his image. He was worried about his impending promotion. He was worried about getting caught. He had no idea what he had just started. That night, standing in a $1,000 dress that felt as thin as a paper gown, I made a clinical decision. This marriage wasn't coding. It couldn't be revived. It was dead on arrival. I decided then to investigate my husband the way I investigate an unexplained death, not to find a cause to save him, but to document every fact, every lie, every piece of evidence, not to save him, but to make sure he didn't get the privilege of dying quietly. The champagne in my hand had gone warm. I was still smiling, a fixed point in the swirling ballroom. As Lucas glad-handed a cardiologist, his laugh was loud, practiced. He looked like the man I married. But my brain was already recategorizing him. He was no longer husband. He was subject, and his chart was a mess. I am the daughter of a woman who ran a laundromat in a town that smelled like damp cotton and industrial soap. I spent my teenage years folding other people's sheets, vowing I would build a life that was clean, sterile, and had no loose threads. So I scrubbed my way into nursing school. I worked nights. I learned to read people by their vital signs, not their words. I learned that panic has a smell, and that you can stop a bleed with enough direct, brutal pressure. I became the night shift charge nurse at Edenwire Medical Center. I was good at it. I was a professional fixer of things that were broken. Then I met Lucas. He was a junior financial assistant for the hospital back then. He was all charm, spreadsheets, and 5-year plans. He wasn't a doctor, not a surgeon with a God complex, not a resident running on 24 hours of no sleep. He was stable. He wore clean, pressed shirts, and spoke about safe futures and compound interest. He was everything my chaotic, blood and guts job was not. He was my anchor. Our 7-year marriage was a patient chart. The first 2 years were the initial intake, passionate, healthy, robust. We were the couple who stayed in, cooked pasta, and mapped out our future. Then the symptoms started. The condition became chronic. Our marriage devolved from passion into scheduling. It became a series of Google Calendar invites, shared spreadsheets for household expenses, and long circular debates about whether to buy a house in the suburbs. Think of the equity, Adeline, or stay in the downtown condo I loved. It's a bad investment. Lucas, the condo fees are killing us. I remembered the low-grade fevers, the little signs of infection I'd ignored. Lucas would lose his phone, only for it to turn up in his car hours later. After I'd been unable to reach him, then he changed his email password. New corporate policy. Honey, you know how it is? He always had a reason for the late meetings, the client dinners that ran long, but he was smart. He was a good manager of his own illness. Just when my nurse's intuition would scream, something is wrong, he would do something to medicate me. He'd bring home flowers. He'd book a surprise weekend trip. He'd rub my feet after a 16-hour shift and tell me I was the only thing holding his world together, and I, desperate for that safe future, would doubt my own diagnosis. I'd label my intuition as paranoia brought on by exhaustion. Life didn't help. This is America. After all, the pressure was constant. I was studying for a new board certification. My student loan payments were astronomical, and the mortgage was a monster we had to feed every month. My night shift schedule was a constant state of jet lag, a fog that blurred my judgment. While I was mainlining coffee and trying to remember what sunlight felt like, Lucas was chasing something else. He was obsessed with real estate opportunities, with side hustles that would let us get rich fast. He wanted out of the grind. I just wanted to sleep. "This is the one, Addie," he'd said, just last week. He was standing at the kitchen island, loosening his tie. He was vibrating with a nervous energy I mistook for ambition. "I'm on the short list, financial director for the entire Edenwire system." He'd grab my hands. "This gala," he said, his eyes intense. "It's my audition. I need to make a perfect impression on the board. I need them to see us as the future, solid, stable." He needed us to look stable. The irony was a physical ache in my chest, and the children, or the lack of them. I remembered every conversation we'd had about starting a family, every time I brought it up. Lucas had a new project, a new excuse. "It's just not the right time. Honey, this promotion is looming. I'm about to close on this new investment. Let's just get past this quarter. Maybe next year, when we're more secure." He was always waiting, and I, the fixer, the competent one, adjusted. I took extra shifts. I changed my rotation. I put my body, my sleep, my hormones on the back burner, all to wait for a future he was actively sabotaging. That was the difference between us. My entire life was about messy reality. I was comfortable with blood, sweat, and tears. I could handle the smell of a CWOYO protocol or the sound of a bone being set. I knew that healing was ugly before it was clean. Lucas hated a mess. He lived in his spreadsheets. He loved the clean, sterile world of networking dinners, golf outings, and talking about return on investment. He probably spoke about ROI more than he'd said, "I love you," in the past year. Back at the gala, I watched him. He was talking to Grant Holloway, a major hospital donor. He put his hand on Grant's back, a friendly, masculine gesture. It was the same hand, the same gesture. He had no idea. He was standing there, schmoozing, thinking about his promotion, while I was across the room, watching him, my mind flashing back to that mirror, the zipper, her skin, his hand, all those little anxieties I'd felt. The sickness dropped in my stomach when he worked late again. The chill I felt when he'd angled his phone away. They weren't paranoid. They were vital signs. They were the early symptoms of a disease I had refused to name. And the scene in the dressing room that wasn't a new infection, that was the terminal stage. That was the moment the patient was declared untreatable. A waiter offered me another glass of champagne. I shook my head. I needed to be sober for this. I needed a clear head for the autopsy to come. How many times, I wondered, had I prescribed myself a sedative for my own heart, just to keep that fraudulent marriage chart hanging on the wall? The valet brought the car around, a black sedan, leased. Another line item on our shared budget. The ride home was quiet at first, just the sound of the tires on the damp pavement. Lucas acted as if the most stressful part of his night was the valet line. "Can you believe they served that salmon?" he said, loosening his bow tie. "Completely overcooked, and Dr. Wells cornered me for 20 minutes about his department's budget. 20 minutes. He was performing normalcy. It was a flawless act. He was talking about the CEO's speech, about the auction bids, about anything and everything except the small, satin-clad elephant in the dressing room. His avoidance was a flashing red light. I decided to run a simple diagnostic test. "That girl, Harper," I said, my voice casual, staring out the window at the blurred city lights. "She seemed stressed. What department did you say she's in?" I watched his reflection in the side window. Not a flicker. He was good. "Oh, from the foundation office. She's one of their event planners. Pretty new, I think. She's been coordinating with my department on the donor pledges for the new wing. Seems a bit over her head. Honestly, that zipper thing was awkward. Glad you walked in. Broke the tension." Glad I walked in. A beautiful, preemptive strike. "You've been working with her for a long time?" I asked. "Me? No, hardly at all. I've probably seen her in maybe 5 or 6 group meetings. Just recognized her tonight. You know how it is." He was lying, and he was bad at it. I had seen her name, Harper, pop up in his text previews on his phone's home screen for at least 6 weeks. Casual, friendly texts. Running late. Got the coffee. I had dismissed them. A nurse texting a doctor. A colleague texting a colleague. I had told myself it was just work. I saw it now. I had been ignoring the telemetry monitor. We got home to our condo. The air inside felt sterile, quiet. "I'm exhausted," I said, and it was the truest thing I'd said all night. "That double shift before the gala, I'm going to pass out. I need a shower." "You go ahead, honey," he said, already unbuttoning his tuxedo shirt. "I'm just going to check a few emails. Decompress." "No, you go," I insisted, giving him a weary smile. "You've been on all night. You deserve it. I'll just be a minute." He smiled, relieved to have a moment alone. "You're the best. I'll be quick." The second I heard the bathroom door click shut and the hiss of the shower start, I moved. His laptop was on the kitchen island, where he'd left it, still logged in. He'd gotten careless, or arrogant, or both. My fingers flew over the trackpad. His email was clean. His calendar was just what I expected. But his messenger app was pinned to the dock. I clicked it. My stomach hollowed out. It felt exactly like the first time I saw a patient hemorrhage. That specific, metallic taste of fear. The human instinct is to recoil, to look away from the blood, to pretend it isn't happening. The nurse's instinct is to lean in, glove up, and find the source of the bleed. I leaned in. There was a long chat history with a name I didn't recognize, logistics vendor. But next to the name was a single red heart emoji. I clicked it. It was her, Harper. I scrolled. I scrolled for minutes. It wasn't just, "Got the coffee." It was, "Thinking of you." It was, "Can't wait to see you tonight." It was, "That was amazing." It was his name, Lucas, over and over, paired with heart eyes and kiss emojis. It was planned. It was a relationship. It was an entire, detailed, parallel life I had been funding. I felt a wave of nausea so profound I had to grip the edge of the granite counter. My vision swam. I was going to be sick, right here on his laptop. Then the training kicked in. Breathe, assess, document. I took my phone out. I started at the top. I took a screenshot. I scrolled down. Screenshot, scroll, screenshot. I captured weeks, months, of conversations. I captured their plans to meet up after the gala. I captured his reassurances to her that Addie has no idea. She trusts me completely. I went to my email on my phone. I composed a new message to my private, secure email address, the one I used for board certifications and bank statements. Subject evidence 01. I attached every single screenshot. I hit send. I watched the blue bar crawl across the screen, then the small whoosh sound that confirmed it was gone. I deleted the sent email from my phone's cache. I closed the laptop. When Lucas came out of the bathroom, wrapped in a towel, hair damp, I was sitting on the couch, sipping a glass of water, my face a mask of calm. The next day, I found my best friend, Maya Ortiz, in the hospital cafeteria. Maya has been a nurse in the surgical ICU for 20 years. She has a voice that sounds like she's constantly chewing gravel and has zero tolerance for anyone's nonsense. I sat down with my tray. She looked at me over her glasses. "You look like hell. Rough night." "You could say that," I said. I pushed my salad around. I told her. The mirror, the zipper, the laptop. Logistics vendor. Maya didn't say I'm sorry. She didn't offer a hug. She took a vicious bite of her sandwich, chewed, and swallowed. "Okay," she said, her voice low. "So he's not just stupid, he's sloppy. Good. Sloppy is good for us. First thing, you do not confront him. You do not cry. You do not do anything emotional. You are a scientist now. You are collecting data. Got it?" I nodded, feeling the fog in my head finally start to clear. "You get a lawyer, not just any lawyer, a shark. I know one. And you lock down your money. You check everything, bank accounts, credit cards, retirement, everything." I started that night, with Maya's advice ringing in my ears. I began to cross-reference. I looked at Lucas's calendar of client dinners. I pulled up the dates from his chat with Harper. November 2nd, Lucas. Meeting with the new contractor, won't be home until 10. Harper. Can't wait. I'll bring the wine. November 9th, Lucas. Board dinner at the Capitol Grill. Harper. I've got the presentation ready for you. See you at my place after. It was a pattern, a meticulous, overlapping schedule of deceit. Every time he was supposedly building his career, he was with her. I was digging through our online bank statements, my blood turning to ice as I saw hundreds of dollars in restaurant charges and cash withdrawals I didn't recognize. When the landline rang, we never used the landline. It was a relic, part of our cable bundle. I almost let it ring. "Hello? Hi, is this Mrs. Adeline Turner?" The voice was bright, professional. "This is her." "Wonderful. This is Chloe from Artisanal Interiors. I'm just calling to confirm the delivery window for the window treatments for your new property on Willow Grove. We have you scheduled for this Friday." I froze. My mind went blank. Willow Grove. I had never heard of Willow Grove. "I'm sorry," I said, my voice steady. "I think you have the wrong number." "Oh," Chloe said, confused. "Is this not the residence of Adeline and Lucas Turner? The order is for the penthouse unit at 1200 Willow Grove. The contract is right here. Signed by you, Mrs. Turner. Signed by me." The nausea was back. But this time it was cold. This wasn't just a fling. This wasn't just lies about dinner. This was something else. This was finance. This was a fraud. I smiled into the phone, a bright, plastic, customer service smile. "Oh, that," I said, forcing a light laugh. "Of course. Silly me. I'm just so swamped. My husband handles all the details on that project. You know what, I don't have the schedule in front of me. Could you do me a favor and just email me a copy of the contract and the delivery order? I need to check it against our files. My email is Adeline." I gave her my private address. "Of course, Mrs. Turner, I'll send it right over. Have a great day." I hung up the phone. The game had just changed. This was no longer a case of adultery. This was a financial investigation, and he had just used my name. The email arrived with a sterile ping just before I left for my shift. Artisanal Interiors, order confirmation. I opened it. A PDF. My fingers felt cold on the trackpad. I am used to reading charts, deciphering bad handwriting and complex medical codes. This was different. This was a credit agreement. It was clean, simple, and utterly terrifying. There, on the digital signature line, was my name, Adeline Turner. It was a perfect, clean, electronic signature. Underneath it was my social security number, my correct date of birth, my annual income, which he would know from our joint tax returns, a document I had never seen, for window treatments I had not ordered, for a property I did not own, all signed by me. He hadn't just lied to me, he had used me. He had taken my good credit, my name, the identity I had built from nothing, and forged it onto a loan. My hands were shaking, but not with sadness. It was rage. A cold, efficient rage that sharpened my focus. This was no longer a personal failing. This was a crime. I logged into my credit monitoring service, a free account I barely ever checked. The dashboard glowed to life. My score was still high. But there, under New Accounts, was a line item that made my blood stop. Mortgage loan, opened 6 months ago, co-borrower, Lucas Turner, property address, 1200 Willow Grove, Unit 4B, 1200 Willow Grove, a new development on the far edge of town, a sterile collection of glass and steel buildings I'd only ever seen from the highway. He had used my name, my income, my credit history, to secure a loan as a co-borrower, binding me to him in a new, secret financial prison. This was no simple investment. You don't hide an investment from your wife by forging her signature. My mind started working like it does when I'm tracking a complicated insurance claim. I am a master of the paper trail. I know how to follow billing codes, how to cross-reference patient IDs with provider numbers. I know that every action leaves a trace. Lucas was sloppy. He had tied this new mortgage to our existing financial ecosystem. I looked at the loan documents he'd left in our shared cloud drive, the one he thought I never checked. I found the account number for the new loan. I followed it. It was linked to a new bank account, a new checking account, also joint, and linked to that. A new credit card, a card I had never seen, with a credit limit that made me sick. I opened the statement for the credit card, and the affair, the lies, the betrayal. It all snapped into a new, horrific focus. It wasn't just dinners at fancy restaurants, though there were plenty of those. It wasn't just hotel charges, which I also saw. It was normal, terrifyingly normal. Target, $142. Kroger, $98. Weekly, Bye Bye Baby, $312. Tuition payment, Bright Steps, Learning Loft, $1,500. Monthly. I stared at the screen. Bye Bye Baby, Bright Steps Learning Loft. A chill, deeper than anything I'd felt in the dressing room, settled into my bones. This wasn't a pied-à-terre for his mistress. An investment property doesn't need groceries. An investment property doesn't wear diapers. An investment property does not go to daycare. He wasn't just supporting an affair. He was supporting a family. A different kind of pain hit me. All those years, all those conversations. Not the right time, Addie. Let's just wait until my promotion. All those extra shifts I took. All that time I put my own body, my own hopes, on hold, waiting for him. He wasn't waiting. He was just building it with someone else. 3 nights later, Lucas called me from the hospital. I was just waking up, the pre-shift fog still heavy. "Hey," he said, his voice strained, a perfect imitation of a stressed executive. "Listen, honey, I'm going to be late, really late. I have to go check on the site for that new outpatient clinic project. The contractors are a mess. I have to go read them the riot act." "The new project?" I asked, my voice flat, already awake. "Where is that one?" "Oh, it's way out past Willow Grove. A total headache. Don't wait for me." "Okay, I'll probably be home after midnight. Love you." He hung up. I sat on the edge of our bed, our marital bed. I picked up my phone. I opened the Find My app, an app we'd linked years ago. "For safety," he'd said. An app he had clearly forgotten about. A small blue dot pulsed on the screen. His phone, his location. It was not moving. It was sitting stationary, planted directly on top of a building labeled 1200 Willow Grove. I got dressed. I didn't put on makeup. I pulled my hair back into a tight, functional ponytail. I grabbed my keys. I drove. I didn't speed. I kept my hands at 10 and 2. I obeyed every traffic law. I felt strangely calm, as if I were driving into a routine shift. I was just going to observe, to document. The Willow Grove complex was exactly as soulless as it looked from the highway. New, expensive, and completely anonymous. I parked my car across the street and 1 block down, in the shadow of an unlit office building. I had a clear view of the main entrance. I turned off my engine. I waited. The night was cold. I didn't turn on the heat. I just sat. For an hour. For 2. At 8:30 p.m. The glass doors of the lobby slid open. My heart didn't stop. It just started to beat slow and heavy. A thick, painful thud, thud, thud in my chest. It was him, Lucas. He was in his work suit. But his tie was gone, and his sleeves were rolled up. He was laughing. He was holding the door open for Harper. She was dressed in yoga pants and a sweatshirt. She was carrying a diaper bag, and holding her other hand was a little girl. She had dark, curly hair. She was maybe 3 years old. She was wearing pink light-up sneakers. I watched, my breath fogging the glass in front of me. As Lucas swung the little girl up into his arms, he tossed her into the air. I could hear her shriek of laughter, a thin, happy sound that cut through the night and right into my chest. He settled her on his hip, kissed her on the top of her head, and she wrapped her small arms around his neck. And then I heard it, a single word, carried in the cold air, clear as a bell. Daddy. The world didn't spin. I didn't cry out. It was exactly like watching a security feed from the trauma bay. Seeing the moment the drunk driver runs the red light. You see the car, you see the impact, you see the victim, but you are safe, behind the glass. You are just the witness. Only this time, I was the one on the pavement. Lucas said something to Harper. She smiled, leaned in, and kissed him. Not a quick peck, a real kiss. A "we do this every day" kiss. A goodbye husband kiss. Then she took a key from her pocket and locked the lobby door behind her. I raised my phone. My hand was perfectly steady. I tapped the video record button. I zoomed in. I panned slowly, documenting the entire scene. Lucas, bouncing the child on his hip. Harper, adjusting the strap of the diaper bag. The front door of their home. The kiss. I held the zoom on his face, illuminated by the streetlight. As he kissed his daughter's hair, I recorded for exactly 30 seconds. Then I stopped. I watched them walk to his car. The car I co-signed for. He strapped the little girl into a car seat in the back. A pink, expensive-looking car seat. Harper got in the passenger side. They drove away. I sat in silence. The sound of my own blood rushing in my ears was deafening. I looked down at my phone. I opened the video. I saved it. File name, Evidence02, Second Family. I put the car in gear. I drove home, my face as numb as if it had been injected with lidocaine. "All right, Mr. Turner," I whispered to the empty car, my voice sounding strange and clinical. "Your case is officially metastatic. Stage 4. Treatment, total excision." I came off my shift at 7 a.m., my eyes gritty, my scrubs smelling like sterile soap and the faint, metallic tang of the ER. I didn't go home. I went to the Copper Finch Bistro, the 24-hour diner that served as the unofficial off-duty lounge for Edenwire staff. Maya was already there, in a booth by the window, nursing a cup of black coffee. She'd just finished her own night in the ICU. I slid into the vinyl seat opposite her. A waitress dropped a menu. I ignored it. "He has a kid," I said. No preamble. Maya's eyes, already tired, sharpened. "What?" I put my phone on the table. I didn't play the video. I just showed her the credit card statement from the secret account. I pointed to the line item, Bright Steps Learning Loft. I pointed to Bye Bye Baby. Then I opened my photo gallery and showed her the single, clear shot I'd taken from the video. Lucas, in the streetlight, kissing the hair of a dark-curled toddler. Maya stared at the phone. She looked at the credit card statement. She put her coffee cup down with a hard thud. Well, damn, she said, her voice a low gravel. He didn't just cheat on you, Adeline. He opened a new franchise. The black humor of it, the sheer awful absurdity, almost made me laugh. Instead, I just felt the last bit of my denial evaporate. He used my name, Maya, I whispered. He forged my signature on a mortgage, on a credit application for window treatments. Maya's face went from cynical to cold. Okay, this isn't a divorce. This is a felony. You're done collecting data yourself. You're calling my friend. Now. She slid a napkin across the table and scribbled a name and a number on it. Naomi Price, Esquire. Naomi is not the lawyer you call to argue over who gets the wedding china, Maya said. She's the one you call when you want to make sure your ex can't afford china for the next 10 years. Her tagline is, I don't destroy marriages, I just cleaned up the crime scene. This, she tapped my phone, is a crime scene. 2 days later, I was in a high-rise office downtown, sitting on a leather chair that probably cost more than my last 2 paychecks. Naomi Price was not what I expected. She was young, sharp, dressed in a minimalist black suit, and had an aura of zero-wasted energy. I laid it all out. The screenshots from Messenger, the credit card statements, the forged contract, the video file, which I airdropped to her computer. She watched it once, her face completely neutral. She didn't offer condolences. She asked questions. Your age? 34. Years married? 7. Your income? Approximate. I told her. His income? Approximate. I told her. Joint assets? The condo. Yes, and our joint savings, which he's been bleeding dry, and a retirement account. She swiveled in her chair, looking at the screen where the video was paused on Lucas's smiling, paternal face. This is good, she said, tapping the screen. This is very bad for him. This isn't just infidelity. This is calculated, systemic financial fraud with a clear timeline of deception. She looked at me. He's been leveraging your good credit and your stable income to fund a second, secret life. The court will not like that, and Edenwire's board, the one he's so desperate to impress, they'll like it even less. What do I do? I asked. I felt like a nursing student on her first day. For now, you do nothing, Naomi said. Her voice was surgical. You go home. You are the same wife you were last week. You freeze your emotions. You are a block of ice. Your only job is to gather more documentation. I want every bank statement, every tax return, every email you can access is related to that Willow Grove property. Do not, under any circumstances, confront him. He doesn't get to know he's been caught. We don't move until we have every single piece in place. He's built this elaborate world, Adeline. We're going to let him live in it, right up until the moment we burn it to the ground. I left her office feeling lighter. I had a plan. I had an ally. But there was one piece of the puzzle I couldn't let go. Harper Lane. Naomi had advised against it. She's his co-conspirator. Don't engage. But I'm a nurse. When I see a wound, I want to know its full extent. I didn't believe Harper was just a co-conspirator. I had seen her eyes in the mirror. She looked familiar because she looked like me, a woman who was trusting Lucas. I sent her an email from my official hospital account. Subject Gala follow-up. Hi, Harper. Adeline Turner here. The board was so impressed with the gala. I was hoping to grab a quick coffee, just to discuss some ideas for next year's fundraiser. Let me know if you have any time this week. She replied in under 5 minutes. Of course, Adeline. Tomorrow at 10 a.m. at the Daily Grind. The Daily Grind was a small cafe 2 blocks from the hospital. It was neutral ground. She was already there when I arrived, sitting in a small booth, nervously shredding a napkin. She looked younger than she had at the gala, and tired. She was wearing a simple blouse and jeans. She looked like any other hospital admin. Adeline, she said, standing up, her smile tight. Thanks for meeting me. Coffee. I'll pass, I said. I slid into the booth. I didn't have time for pretense. I put my phone on the table, face down. Harper, I said, my voice low and even. I'm not here to talk about the gala. Her face went pale. I don't know what you mean. Lucas told you we were separated. Didn't he? The color drained from her face. Her hands, the ones shredding the napkin, went still. He said yes. He said it was over. That you two were just roommates. That you wouldn't sign the papers. That you were making it difficult. I was making it difficult. I nodded. By working double shifts to pay for the mortgage he was secretly borrowing against. What? I took two things from my bag. The first was a folded document. I slid it across the table. Our marriage certificate, 7 years ago, never amended, never contested. We are not, and have never been, separated. Her eyes scanned the paper, her breath hitching. Second, I said. I turned my phone over. I hit play. I played the 30-second video, the video of her, Lucas, and the little girl, the kiss, the daddy. Harper made a small, strangled sound, like she'd been punched in the gut. She wasn't looking at the phone. She was looking at me, her eyes wide with a new, dawning horror. He's not living with me and waiting for a divorce. Harper, I said, my voice devoid of emotion. He is living 2 full, complete lives. He's married to me, and he has a family with you, and he is using both of us. She started to cry, silent, awful tears that just ran down her face. I didn't know. He told me the condo he told me was an investment, that he put his mother's name on it with his, to secure the loan. His mother's name, not mine. He had lied to her with a different, but equally specific, lie. He didn't use his mother's name. Harper, I said. He used mine. He forged my signature. That home you're living in, that you think is yours and his, I'm on that mortgage. I am financially responsible for your window treatments. The sobs choked her. Oh my God. Oh my God. I'm the other woman. No, I said, and the coldness in my own voice surprised me. You're not the other woman. You're just the other victim. That little girl, she's beautiful. She deserves better than a father who calls her a secret. Harper looked up, her face a mess of mascara and shock. Emma. Her name is Emma. Emma, I nodded. Well, Emma and I have one thing in common. We've both been lied to by Lucas. The question is, what do we want to do about it? She took a deep, shuddering breath. The shock in her eyes was hardening. It was the same look I'd seen in the mirror. The moment a victim realizes what's happening. He told me not to post pictures of him and Emma. He said it was for legal reasons because of the difficult divorce. He said he was protecting me. He's protecting himself, I said. She was quiet for a long time. She wiped her face with the shredded napkin. When she looked at me again, the tears were gone. Her eyes were hard. What are you going to do? She whispered. I'm going to end it, I said. All of it. The marriage, the lies, the financial fraud. I'm taking him down. She stared at me. I could see her future flashing before her eyes, a single mother, a public scandal, a man who had lied to her from day one. If you're going to do something, she said, her voice shaking but firm, I want to help. I want him to stop making my daughter a secret. He doesn't get to hide her. He doesn't get to call her a legal reason. She pushed her phone across the table. He texts me, all the time. He tells me what to say, what to do, how to hide. I'll cooperate. I have all the messages. An unexpected ally. I hadn't come here for this. But in the ER, you use every tool that's handed to you. I nodded. Good. Then let's get to work. Living with Lucas became a procedure, a sterile, controlled observation. I was no longer his wife. I was his primary nurse, and he was the patient in the ICU, completely unaware that he was being monitored 24/7. I went to my shifts. I came home. I kissed him good morning as he left for work, and in the hours he was gone, or when he was asleep, I became a forensic accountant. Naomi had given me a checklist. We need a complete financial picture, she'd said. Assume he's hidden things. Find them. So, I gathered. While he was in the shower, I logged onto our home computer, the one we shared, the one he thought I only used for recipes, and accessed his synced work email. I forwarded years of his pay stubs, his retirement account statements, and his annual bonus reports to my private email. Evidence/03. Come. I pulled out the metal lockbox from our closet, the one with our important papers. I methodically scanned every page: the original deed to our condo, our tax returns for the past 7 years, our life insurance policies. I scanned them all. Evidence for shared assets. It was in that lockbox that I found the first critical mistake he'd made, besides the forgery. On the loan application for the Willow Grove condo, a copy he had stupidly left in a folder marked Investments. He had filed some of the supporting financial documents as single. He had declared himself unmarried on a federal banking document to secure a loan. I wasn't just his victim, I was his alibi. And now, I was his prosecutor. I emailed the document to Naomi with a simple note: fraud. Her reply came back in 60 seconds. This is more than leverage. This is a kill shot. The next day, a file-sharing link appeared in my inbox from Harper. No message, just the link. She was my secret, new ally, my logistics vendor. I opened it. It was a data dump of her life with him. There were emails, Lucas, writing to her from his work account, detailing his divorce strategy. She's being difficult, but I'm managing it. Just a few more months. Babe, we have to be smart. Don't worry about the money. I'm moving assets. She won't be able to touch our new place. He was managing me. He was moving assets. Then I saw the spreadsheet, a file named Family Budget V2 by XLSX. My hands went cold. He, the man who lived for spreadsheets, had created one for his betrayal. It was a meticulous 2-column budget. Column A, Adeline, condo. Column B, Harper, WG. He had itemized us. Under my column, mortgage, utilities, condo fees, my car payment, and then a subsection, expenditure reductions. He had line items for cancel Adeline's streaming services, reduce monthly food budget A, and I saw it, lower A's clothing personal allowance. He wasn't just cheating, he was optimizing me. He was looking at his wife, his partner of 7 years, as an expense he could cut to improve the cash flow for his mistress. I saved the file. Evidence/05. The budget. I applied my professional skills. In the ER. When a patient comes in unresponsive, we build a timeline. What time were they last seen normally? What medications did they take? When did the symptoms start? I opened a new blank document. I called it Turner Case File. I created a timeline. I am a master of charting. Date May. 2 years ago. Lucas refuses to discuss starting IVF. Not the right time. Addie. Too much pressure at work. Date June. 2 years ago. Credit card statement shows first charge for Bright Steps Learning Loft deposit. Date January. Last year. I cover 3 extra night shifts to pay for a plumbing emergency. Lucas complains about being broke. Date January. Last year. Bank records show down payment for 1200 Willow Grove. Date April. Last year. Emma Lane is born. I found her birth date on the daycare enrollment form Harper sent me. Date April. Last year. Lucas and I have a fight because he forgot our anniversary dinner. He said he was stuck at the office. I mapped out every lie, every late night, every business trip, every time he'd told me no. It was because he was saying yes to her. The pattern wasn't just clear, it was a screaming, blaring code blue. Harper, now fully activated, became my best source. She started forwarding, in real time, the texts he sent her. Remember, babe, you cannot post any pictures of me with Emma, not on Instagram, not on Facebook. It's for the lawyers. It would destroy our case against Adeline. He was painting me as the enemy, using his child as a pawn in a game I didn't even know I was playing. I started a new protocol. I bought a small, digital voice recorder. I kept it in my pocket. I am a nurse. I am trained to ask non-threatening, open-ended questions to get a clear history. Lucas, I asked one morning, stirring my coffee. I was looking at our savings account. The balance seems low. Did we have an unexpected bill? He didn't look up from his phone. Oh, yeah. I had to move some money around. For that new project. The one out near Willow Grove. It's a cash flow nightmare. Don't worry about it. I'm handling it. Click. I saved the recording. Verbal confirmation Willow. Hey, I asked a few nights later, pretending to sort mail. I got a confusing letter from our life insurance provider. Did they change our policy? This made him look up, a flicker of panic in his eyes. What no? Why? I don't know. Just a notice about collateral. It's probably junk mail. Junk mail, he repeated, too quickly. Exactly. Just toss it. I had not received a letter. I had discovered it in the lockbox. I had logged into the policy online. He had taken out a loan against my life insurance policy, the policy my mother had paid for, the one I'd had since I was 21. He had borrowed against my death to fund his life. I sent the screenshot to Naomi. Her response, "This is excellent. He's not just a cheat. He's a ghoul." I didn't cry anymore. The time for that was over. The mirror at the gala had broken something, and the thing that replaced it was cold and sharp. Every time Lucas texted me a heart emoji from work, every time he kissed me goodbye, every time he called me honey, I felt nothing. No, that's a lie. I felt something. I felt the cool, calm satisfaction of a clinician adding another data point to the chart. Every affectionate gesture was just another symptom of his disease. Harper, meanwhile, was having her own crisis. She was a woman who had just realized her dream home was a crime scene and her future husband was a con artist. She was terrified, but she was also angry, and she kept feeding me information. The evidence was piling up. I bought a fireproof box with a key and hid it under the spare linens in the guest closet, a place he never went. I printed everything, the bank statements, the forged signature, the cut Adeline's expenses budget, the text messages. The box got heavier, the file grew thicker. One night, I sat on the floor of the closet, the box open on my lap. I looked at the stack of paper. It felt like a patient's chart, the kind we have for the chronic, complex cases that have been in and out of the system for years. In the hospital, we keep charts to save a life. We document every vital sign, every medication, every small change, so we can intervene, so we can heal. I looked at the file I was building. This one was different. I was keeping this chart to end a life this toxic, parasitic marriage. I was documenting every vital lie, not to save anyone, but to make sure that when I finally cut it out, I didn't hurt anyone else in the process. Not me. And not the little girl with the light-up shoes. My fireproof box was full. The case was built. I had a stack of evidence thick enough to choke a horse. But Naomi wasn't satisfied with just winning in court. A formal court proceeding will take months. Adeline, she said, leaning across her polished desk. We were in her office for a strategy session. By then, he will have time to hide more assets. He'll lawyer up. He'll drain the accounts. He'll paint you as a hysterical, vengeful wife. He will control the narrative. So what do we do? I asked. Naomi smiled. And it was the first time I'd seen her look truly happy. We don't let him control anything. We don't wait for a judge. We create our own courtroom. We stage a one-act play where he is the only one who doesn't know his lines. You need a venue where all the interested parties are present, where the pressure is contained, and where he has no exit. I must have looked confused. For God's sake, Adeline, she said, throw a dinner party, or a brunch. People are always more vulnerable when they're holding a mimosa. A brunch. The idea was so domestic, so suburban, so Lucas. It was perfect. His birthday, I said, the plan clicking into place. It's in 2 weeks, this Sunday. Even better, Naomi said. A celebration. He'll be completely disarmed. So, I became an event planner, a different kind from Harper. Of course, my event was a surgical intervention. The guest list was critical. This wasn't a party. It was a jury summons. First, the primary stakeholders, his parents, Joan and Richard Turner. They lived an hour away and were the keepers of the Lucas is a Saint flame. They worshipped their son, the financial prodigy, and always treated me with a sort of polite condescension, the working-class nurse who had snagged their golden boy. They believed he was the most decent man in the state. They needed to be there. Second, the professional leverage. I emailed Grant Holloway, Lucas's most important business partner, the one he'd been schmoozing at the gala. "Grant," I wrote, my tone breezy. "As you know, it's Lucas's birthday this Sunday. We're having a tiny, very informal brunch at our place. Just family. But you've been such a huge part of his life this year. It would mean the world if you and Jennifer could stop by for a celebratory toast. No gifts." Grant, who valued family and networking above all, replied within an hour, "We'd be honored." Third, my legal counsel. "Naomi," I said, "you're coming. As your lawyer?" "No, as my old college friend. Naomi, who's in town for a conference, the one I haven't seen in 10 years. You'll be just as surprised by all of this as everyone else." "I love it," she said. "I'll wear my most sympathetic cardigan." Finally, the wild card. Harper and Emma. I met Harper at the same coffee shop. She was a wreck. The past 2 weeks had shredded her. "I can't live like this. Adeline," she whispered. "He's different. He's paranoid. He keeps asking me if I've talked to anyone. He's worried about his promotion." "This Sunday. It ends," I said. "But I need one more thing from you." Her eyes widened in fear. You're not bringing Emma to your house, are you?" The thought was revolting. "God, no, I'm not him. I don't use children as weapons in an ambush." Relief washed over her face. "But," I continued, "I want you to bring Emma to the playground, the one on Elm Street. It's 2 blocks from my condo. Be there at 11:30 a.m. Be ready." "Ready for what?" "For Joan and Richard. After they know the truth, they're going to want to meet their granddaughter. And I want you to be the one to introduce her, not as a secret, not as a mistake, but as their son's child, in the sunlight." Her hand was shaking as she gripped her coffee cup. "Okay, we'll be there." With the players set, I prepared the evidence. I spent an entire night in my home office. I took the fireproof box from the closet. I built a PowerPoint presentation, and in a move that I considered my masterpiece of petty, surgical revenge, I used his official Edenwire Financial Department template, the one he had used just last month to give a hospital-wide lecture on fiscal responsibility and ethical transparency. Slide 1. A beautiful photo montage. Us, smiling, on our wedding day. Us, hiking, 7 years ago. Us, at last year's gala. He looked at me with what I used to think was love. The soundtrack would be the soft, ambient music from the living room speaker. Slide 2. The header, in his corporate font, read Q3 Financial Discrepancies. And on the screen, the first bank statement, with the withdrawals for Bye Bye Baby and Bright Steps Learning Loft highlighted in bright, accusatory red. Slide 3. Unauthorized contracts. A high-resolution scan of the Artisanal Interiors credit agreement, my name, my forged signature. Slide 4. Willow Grove asset analysis, the mortgage document, the single filing status, the Excel spreadsheet, the reduce Adeline's expenses column. Slide 5. The final slide, the one that would end it, a simple title, The Second Family, and embedded, set to autoplay, was the 30-second video. Daddy, the kiss, the car seat. I saved the file to my laptop. I tested the HDMI cable connection to the 42-inch television in our dining room. The connection was perfect. Naomi, meanwhile, was preparing her own party favor. She drafted a full separation agreement. It was brutal, and it was ironclad. Lucas would vacate the condo by 5 p.m. that day. He would sign over his rights to the condo in exchange for me not pressing criminal charges for the fraud and forgery. He would agree to a 50-50 split of his retirement, not the 35% he would have owed, And most importantly, he would agree to immediately establish a formal paternity and child support agreement for Emma Lane, with Harper's full cooperation. It was all there, printed on thick, expensive paper, in a neat folder. It would be Naomi's birthday gift. I had one last piece of preparation. I went online. I found a 24-hour locksmith service. I booked an appointment for Sunday at 2 p.m. I paid the rush fee. I filed it under Plan B. If Lucas refused to sign, if he thought he could fight me, he was welcome to try. From the street, the night before the brunch, I set the table. Lucas was out. A last-minute strategy dinner with Grant Holloway. He'd said he was trying to lock down his promotion before his birthday. I knew he was actually at Willow Grove, having his real family birthday party. I didn't care. I pulled out our best china, the plates we never used. I polished the silver. I folded the linen napkins into perfect, sharp triangles. I bought a centerpiece of white lilies, the same ones that had been in the hotel lobby. They smelled faintly of death, and they were beautiful. I stood back and looked at the dining room. It was set for 6 people. The morning sunlight would pour in through the windows. It looked like the set of a magazine shoot. I was ready. I wasn't setting a table to celebrate a marriage. I was setting a stage to properly execute it, in the most beautiful, unforgiving light imaginable. Sunday morning. My alarm was set for 7 a.m., but I was awake at 5. My body was humming with the familiar, high-frequency vibration of a pre-code alert. I didn't feel tired. I felt sharp. I went to the kitchen. The condo was dark and silent. Lucas was still asleep, a privilege of not having worked a 16-hour trauma shift the day before. I started the preparations. I measured flour, sugar, and baking powder. I zested 2 lemons. I whipped the egg whites for the pancakes. I laid out strips of thick-cut bacon on a rack over a baking sheet, the way Lucas liked, so they would cook perfectly flat and crisp in the oven. I ground the expensive, dark roast coffee beans he was so particular about. The apartment slowly filled with the aroma of 1,000 other, normal Sundays, the rich smell of coffee, the sweet tang of citrus, the smoky promise of bacon. It smelled like comfort. It smelled like a home. It smelled like a perfectly constructed lie. The only thing out of place was my laptop, sitting closed on the buffet against the dining room wall. It was already plugged in. The HDMI cable was already connected, snaking invisibly behind the cabinet to the large, dark screen of the television mounted above it. Lucas wandered out just after 9, rubbing his eyes. He was wearing the expensive cashmere lounge pants I'd bought him for Christmas. He looked soft, rested, and completely oblivious. He was the picture of a man without a single secret in the world. He came up behind me as I was pouring the first circle of batter onto the hot griddle. He wrapped his arms around my waist, his chin settling on my shoulder. "Happy birthday to me," he murmured, his voice thick with sleep. He kissed my cheek. "This smells incredible. Addie, you outdid yourself." I forced my muscles to relax, to lean back into him. "Happy birthday. Lucas," he squeezed me. "Seriously, thank you for putting this all together. Thank you for always being here for me, through every step of this journey." His words hung in the air, clinical and precise. Every step of the journey, a perfect soundbite for his file. "Go get dressed," I said, my voice light. "Your parents will be here at 11. He kissed me again and headed for the shower. Just as my phone vibrated in my pocket, a text from Naomi. On my way, wearing the cardigan. The only moment of panic, the only time the surgical calm wavered, came at 10:30. Lucas was dressed, looking sharp in a blue polo shirt, and was searching for some papers. "Addie, have you seen my notes for Grant?" he called from the home office. "I want to show him the projections for the new wing. I swear I left them on the desk." I heard his office chair scrape on the hardwood floor. "Where did I put that?" I walked to the office doorway, spatula in hand. I froze. He was on one knee, leaning down, his arm extended under the antique mahogany desk. His fingers were blindly sweeping the floor, brushing against the side of the small, black fireproof box I had hidden there. The box contained every printed, hard copy of his betrayal. My heart stopped. It was not a metaphor. I felt the thud and the pause. I acted. I am, above all, a trauma nurse. I moved. I took one step into the room and stumbled, jamming my foot hard against the leg of the desk. I cried out, a sharp, real pain of yelp, and dropped the metal spatula. It hit the hardwood floor with an explosive clang. Lucas shot upright, banging his head hard on the underside of the desk. "Ow, God, Adeline!" he yelled, rubbing his scalp. "What the hell?" "My foot," I gasped, clutching my toe, hopping on the other. "I think I broke it on this stupid desk. Ow, ow, ow." He was instantly diverted. The box was forgotten. He was on his feet, all concern, guiding me to the chair. "Are you okay? Let me see. Wiggle your toes." I wiggled them. "I'm okay," I panted. The adrenaline was real now. Just God. That hurt. I'm so clumsy today. Must be the exhaustion from my shift. He rubbed my ankle, his face a mask of husbandly concern. "You need to be more careful, honey." "I know," I said, giving him a weak smile. "The notes you're looking for are on the kitchen counter, by the coffee maker." "Oh," he looked baffled. "Right, thanks." The doorbell rang. 11 o'clock. On the dot, I smoothed my apron. "That'll be your parents. Can you get that? I'll check the bacon." He went to the door, the box under the desk completely erased from his mind. I limped back to the kitchen, my heart restarting its rhythm. Joan and Richard Turner swept in. Joan, with her perfectly coiffed silver hair, was holding a Pyrex dish covered in foil. Richard, quiet as ever, was carrying a gift bag. "Adeline, darling," Joan said, presenting the dish to me as an offering. "Our family's cinnamon nut bread. You know Lucas loves it." "Joan, thank you. It smells wonderful," I said. She stepped past me into the dining room, her critical gaze immediately sweeping the space. "It all looks lovely, dear. Though," she paused, squinting at the windows. "These curtains are looking a little tired, aren't they?" "Happy birthday, son," Richard boomed, ignoring her, clapping Lucas on the back. The bell rang again at 11:10. Grant and Jennifer Holloway. They were tanned, rested, and looked like they'd stepped out of a yacht club catalog. Grant handed Lucas a bottle of wine so heavy it must have cost $300. "Lucas, happy birthday, my friend," Grant said, his voice booming. "Had to stop by. Jennifer wouldn't miss it." "Grant, Jennifer, thank you for coming," Lucas said, practically glowing. His key partner was here. His parents were here. His adoring wife was cooking. His world was perfect. "Smells incredible. Adeline," Grant said, winking at me. "Always happy to join a family gathering. You know me. I always say financial transparency is the cornerstone of trust. It all starts at home, right?" "Absolutely, Grant," I said, my smile so bright it hurt my face. Mimosas. The final piece clicked into place at 11:15. The doorbell. Lucas looked confused. "Who else did you invite?" "Oh my God," I said, walking to the door. "I don't believe it." I opened it to reveal Naomi, looking lovely in a cream-colored cardigan and simple jeans, holding a small bouquet of flowers. "Naomi," I shrieked, performing a hug that deserved an Oscar. "What are you doing here?" "Addie," she squealed back, playing her part. "I'm so sorry to just drop in. I'm in town for a legal conference, staying downtown, and I just had to see if this was still your address. Am I interrupting something?" I turned back to the room, beaming. "Lucas, everyone, this is my old college friend, Naomi Price. The one I've told you about, Naomi. This is my husband, Lucas, his parents, Joan and Richard, and his partners, Grant and Jennifer." Lucas, the consummate host, was already shaking her hand. "Naomi?" "A friend from college conference. What, did you get a degree in beer pong?" he joked. Naomi laughed, a light tinkling sound. "Something like that. Paralegal studies. Actually, oh, I'm so embarrassed. I'm clearly crashing a party." "Nonsense," Lucas said, steering her in. "Any friend of Adeline's is more than welcome. We're just sitting down for a little birthday brunch. Grab a plate." The stage was set. I served the food, the lemon ricotta pancakes, the perfectly crisp bacon, the massive fruit salad, Joan's cinnamon bread. The conversation was light. Lucas was telling an animated story about the hospital CEO. I countered with a genuinely funny story about a patient from my last shift who tried to order a pizza to the trauma bay. Everyone laughed. Grant and Lucas started talking about interest rates. Joan commented on the high price of coffee. It was all so perfectly, horribly normal. It felt like the hushed, calm moments in the OR just before the first incision is made. I went to the kitchen counter to refill the orange juice pitcher. I glanced at my phone, hidden by the blender. One new text, from Harper. At the park, Elm and Third, Emma is on the swings and doesn't want to leave. She's fine. She's happy. Just do what you have to do. We're ready. I took a deep, steadying breath. The child was safe. The child was playing. This was not about her. It was about the man at the table, laughing as he took another piece of bacon. I walked back to the dining table. Everyone had a full plate. Everyone was talking. Lucas had just taken his first bite of pancake. I stood at the head of the table. I picked up the small black TV remote from the buffet. If I could have everyone's attention for just a moment, I said. The conversation trickled to a stop. They all looked at me. Lucas was smiling, his mouth full, ready for a toast. Thank you all so much for coming to celebrate Lucas, I said, my voice clear and warm. Before we really dig in, I put together a little birthday surprise, a little presentation for him. I smiled, holding his gaze. Call it a new family tradition. I aimed the remote and pressed the power button. The 42-inch screen above the buffet flashed to life. The first slide was exactly what I'd planned, a rotating montage of our life, our wedding photo, him dipping me, both of us laughing, a picture from our honeymoon in Italy, covered in pasta, a photo from 3 years ago, hiking. Lucas chuckled, genuinely touched. He put his fork down. Addie, wow, this is a lot. For a birthday brunch. Joan, his mother, put a hand to her chest. Oh, Lucas, look at you two. Just beautiful. Grant and Jennifer smiled politely. The way you do at someone else's memories. Naomi watched, her face a mask of pleasant neutrality. I wanted to celebrate the journey. Lucas, I said, my voice smooth. I clicked the remote. The screen changed. The soft music stopped. The Edenwire corporate logo appeared at the top. The title, in his official font, read Q3 Financial Discrepancies. Lucas's smile froze. He squinted at the screen, confused. Addie? What is this? Did you grab my work laptop? Just a presentation I put together, I said. Based on our shared accounts. On the screen was a high-resolution scan of our joint savings account statement, a series of withdrawals, dates, and amounts were highlighted in a jarring, bright red. I was just looking over our finances, I continued, my voice conversational, as if pointing out a grocery bill. And I noticed our marriage has developed some extra expenses, significant ones. Grant Holloway leaned forward. His professional curiosity piqued. He could read a bank statement from across a room. Lucas laughed, but it was a high, tight sound, a C-sharp of panic. Honey, what are you doing? This is just this Willow Grove investment. We talked about this. It's just a cash flow thing. Ah, the investment, I said. I'm glad you brought that up. Click, new slide. Title unauthorized contracts filing irregularities. There it was. The credit agreement from Artisanal Interiors. My name, Adeline Turner, in a clean digital signature. I don't remember ordering $12,000 worth of custom blinds. Lucas, I said. But my signature says I did. Lucas was white. Adeline, this is not the time or the place. This is a simple misunderstanding. But this is the part that confused me most, I said, ignoring him. I clicked to the next file on the slide. The Willow Grove mortgage application. I zoomed in on the declaration page. Richard, his father, who rarely spoke, squinted. What does that say? It says marital status single. I read, my voice loud and clear in the silent room. Joan's teacup clattered against her saucer. What, Lucas? Why would the bank papers say you're unmarried? That's fraud, isn't it? Grant Holloway's face had gone from curious to stone cold. He was no longer a friendly guest. He was a business partner looking at a liability. He stared at the bank logo on the top of the form, then at Lucas. He didn't say a word. "Lucas," Richard said, his voice a low rumble. "What is this?" "It's a mistake," Lucas snapped, his voice too loud. "It's a clerical error, Adeline. Stop this. You're embarrassing me. You're embarrassing us." "Am I?" I said. "I'm not the one who filed as a single man while using his wife's income to secure the loan." Click, the screen changed again. Title Asset Analysis 1200 Willow Grove, a photograph, the one I took from my car. The exterior of the anonymous, expensive building. "This is the investment," I said. "A 2-bedroom penthouse unit. Very nice." Lucas pushed his chair back. It scraped horribly on the floor. "Turn it off." "Adeline, I swear to God. Turn it off right now." "I'm not finished," I said. "This is the best part." I clicked one last time. The video file. The screen filled with the grainy nighttime footage from my phone. The lobby door. Lucas, emerging, his tie gone. Harper, the diaper bag. And then, the little girl. The room went absolutely, terrifyingly silent. The only sound was the faint audio from my phone. We all watched. We watched him swing her into the air. We watched her hug his neck. And then we all heard it. The tiny, high-pitched, crystal-clear voice. "Daddy." Joan made a sound, a small, suffocated gasp, as if she'd been strangled. The fork she was holding slipped from her fingers and hit her plate with a sharp clink. Jennifer Holloway, Grant's wife, covered her mouth with her hand. Lucas Turner didn't move. He stared at the screen, at the image of him kissing his daughter's hair, his face a mask of pure, white-hot horror. The blood had left his body. He looked like a patient in hypovolemic shock. The video looped. "Daddy," he finally exploded. "You did this," he screamed, his voice cracking. He lunged for the laptop on the buffet. "You were spying on me. You followed me. You filmed me. You're insane. You're crazy. Adeline." I didn't flinch. I just stood there, holding the remote. "In the hospital." "Lucas," I said, my voice cutting through his rage. When we document a patient's symptoms without their knowledge, we call it objective data collection. In a marriage, I suppose we just call it evidence of adultery. "Adultery," Joan whispered. Her face crumpled. "Lucas, who is that child?" Lucas was panting, his eyes darting between me, his parents, and Grant. He was cornered. "It's a mistake. It was a one-time. Adeline is blowing this completely out of proportion." "Am I?" At this, Naomi, my quiet college friend, cleared her throat. She placed her linen napkin gently on the table. "Actually, Mr. Turner," she said, her voice polite, but carrying the weight of a courtroom. "I don't think she is." Lucas turned to her, bewildered. "What?" Naomi reached into the large purse at her feet and pulled out a thick file-bound document. She placed it on the table next to the centerpiece of lilies. "My name is Naomi Price. I'm not Adeline's college friend," she said, looking directly at him. "I'm her attorney, and I'm here today to discuss the legal ramifications of the financial fraud you've been perpetrating against my client for the last 2 years, and, of course, to discuss a support and paternity agreement for your daughter, Emma Lane." Emma Lane. The name hit the room. Lucas looked at Naomi, then at me, in complete, shattered betrayal. He finally understood. This wasn't an outburst. This was an execution. Grant Holloway, the business partner, finally spoke. His voice was low and ice-cold. "Lucas," he said, not looking at me or his wife, but directly at his partner. "Is that document the mortgage application? Is it real?" "Grant, listen, it's complicated. Is it real?" Grant's voice was a blade. "Did you file a fraudulent document, using your wife's information, to secure a loan for a property you are living in with an employee of the foundation. Lucas's mouth opened and closed. No sound came out. Grant stood up. He threw his napkin on the table. You realize that this doesn't just affect you. This affects the Edenwire partnership. This affects me. If you are committing bank fraud in your personal life, the board has to assume you're capable of it in your professional one. You're a liability. Grant, please, Lucas begged, his voice hoarse. We're done here. Lucas, I held up my hand. One last thing. Grant, before you go. I clicked the remote. The final slide. Title case file. A timeline. It was the chart. The dense, data-filled timeline of every lie, every withdrawal, every late-night cross-referenced with a text from Harper. May 10th. Lucas declines IVF. Not the right time. May 12th. Bank transfer. $10,000. Investment deposit. January 4th. Adeline takes 3 extra shifts. Budget is tight. January 5th. Willow Grove mortgage closes. April 8th. Emma Lane born. April 10th. Lucas forgets anniversary. It scrolled on and on. 2 years of deceit. Laid bare in the cold. Hard font of his own corporate PowerPoint. The room was silent. Jennifer was crying quietly. Richard was staring at his plate. Joan was watching the screen, her face like a stone mask, as the timeline of her son's lies scrolled past her eyes. I turned off the screen. The room was plunged back into the bright, cheerful Sunday sunlight, the smell of bacon and coffee hanging in the air like a bad joke. I looked at Lucas. He had sunk back into his chair, a completely broken man. How long, Lucas? I asked, my voice quiet. How long were you planning to maintain 2 families? How long were you going to optimize my expenses? Until Emma was old enough to realize her father only visited on weekends. Until your wife finally disappeared from your financial records entirely. He had no answer. He just stared at the table, at the beautiful, untouched pancake on his plate. Lucas, finally finding his voice, tried to fight back. He stood up, his face a mottled, ugly red. You can't do this. This is my life you're blowing up. This is a private matter. You invaded my privacy. You stole my files. This is insane. He was floundering, grabbing at anything. That child, he spat, gesturing at the blank screen. That was a mistake. A stupid mistake I was handling. I was going to fix it quietly. You've ruined everything. You crazy. A mistake. A new voice cut through his tirade. It was Joan, his mother. She was on her feet, her face pale, her hands trembling. She wasn't looking at me. She was staring at her son with a dawning, terrible clarity. Lucas, she said, her voice a low, horrified whisper. Did you just call my granddaughter a mistake you were handling? For the first time that day, Lucas looked truly frightened. He had lost his mother. Mom, no. I didn't mean it's complicated. You don't understand. Oh, I think I'm beginning to, she said. She sat back down, heavily, as if her bones could no longer support her. She looked at her husband. He called her a mistake. Richard. Naomi took this as her cue. She picked up the thick document folder and stepped forward, placing it on the table directly in front of Lucas's plate, right on top of his untouched pancakes. It is complicated, Mr. Turner, Naomi said, her voice calm and professional. Which is why we've prepared this, a separation agreement, to uncomplicate things for you. Lucas stared at the folder as if it were a bomb. The terms are quite simple, Naomi continued, her tone as bright as if she were explaining a menu. You will vacate this condo by 5 p.m. today. You will sign over your full interest in the property to Adeline. You will agree to a 60-40 split of your retirement and investment accounts, in her favor, given the extra expenses you've incurred from the joint savings. Furthermore, you will immediately consent to a DNA test to establish paternity for Emma Lane, and you will sign this attached preliminary child support agreement, which is based on your documented income, no arguments, no court. Lucas was sputtering. I'm not signing anything. This is extortion. I'll get my own lawyer. You'll. In exchange, Naomi said, cutting him off. My client, Adeline, will agree not to immediately file a report with the district attorney's office for bank fraud, identity theft, and forgery. She will also agree not to forward her entire PowerPoint presentation. She gestured to the laptop. To the Edenwire Board of Directors, though I can't speak for Mr. Holloway. Grant, who had been standing by the door silently texting, now put his phone in his pocket. He looked at Lucas, his face impassive. She won't have to, Lucas, Grant said. If you do not sign that agreement, right now, I will be forced to make a call to Edenwire's internal audit department myself. We are not talking about your sordid personal affairs. We are talking about fraudulent documents with a bank. That's a federal issue. You are a career-ending liability. You have 30 minutes to fix this before I make that call. Jennifer, let's wait in the car. His wife nodded, not looking at anyone, and they both walked out the front door, leaving a void of cold air behind them. Lucas was trapped. He looked at his parents, who refused to meet his eyes. He looked at me, his face a mask of pure hatred. He looked at Naomi, who just smiled pleasantly and tapped the folder. He tried one last time. Adeline, he said, his voice dropping, trying to find the old intimacy, the old control. Please, let's ask everyone to leave. We can talk about this. Just us. We can figure this out. I almost laughed. Talk about what? Lucas, the budget. Which expense you're going to cut next? No. You built this second life in public. You funded it with our money. You lied to your partners. You lied to your parents. You don't get to hide in private now. You built these lies in front of everyone. You will be undone in front of everyone. I pointed to the folder. Sign it. He stared at the document. He stared at his parents. Richard finally looked at him. Sign it, son. Just sign it. The fight went out of him. It was like watching a patient's blood pressure bottom out. The color, the anger, the panic, it all just drained away, leaving a gray, hollow shell. He reached for the pen that Naomi had thoughtfully placed on top of the folder. He opened it. He didn't read it. He just started signing. The only sound in the entire, sunlit room was the harsh, wet scratch of the pen on the thick paper, page after page. Scratch, scratch, scratch. It was the loudest sound I had ever heard. It was the sound of my life being exorcised. He finished the last page and threw the pen down. It rolled off the table and hit the floor, but no one moved to get it. I didn't cry. I didn't feel triumph. I just felt light. The way you feel after a 36-hour shift when you finally get to sit down. The pressure in my chest, the one I'd been carrying for months, finally eased. It was the clinical relief of pulling an endotracheal tube from a patient who could finally breathe on their own. Thank you, Lucas, I said, my voice quiet. I looked at my watch. It's 12:30. The locksmith will be here at 2 p.m. to change the locks on the front door and the storage unit. You have 90 minutes to pack a bag with your personal essentials. The rest of your things, I looked at Naomi, can be retrieved by your lawyer at a later date. He just stared at me, his eyes dead. Richard and Joan stood up slowly. They looked 100 years old. We'll go, Richard mumbled, helping his wife with her coat. Joan, Richard, I said, and they both stopped, looking at me. I just wanted you to know, I said, my voice gentle. Harper and your granddaughter Emma, they're at the playground, 2 blocks from here, Elm and 3rd. They're just playing on the swings. They've been waiting. Joan's eyes filled with tears. The first she'd shed. She looked at me. A silent, complicated question. No one is ambushing you, I said. The child is not part of this. She's just there. If you want to meet her, you can. If you don't, you can just go home. The choice is yours. She just deserves not to be a secret anymore. Richard nodded, his throat working. He put his arm around his wife, and they walked out the door. leaving their son sitting at the table. Naomi gathered her papers, sliding the signed agreement into her briefcase. She gave my arm a quick, firm squeeze. "I'll file this first thing tomorrow. Call me if he gives you any trouble. But I don't think he will." She, too, walked out. Lucas stood up, his chair scraping again. He looked at me, his face hollow. He didn't say a word. He just turned and walked into our bedroom to pack. I was alone. The dining room was a disaster. Half-eaten plates of cold pancakes, spilled mimosas, Joan's discarded fork, the smell of bacon and betrayal. The television screen, which I'd never turned off, was still glowing, paused on the final slide. Case file. A timeline. I looked at the table. At the center of it, next to the white lilies, was the signed agreement, my release. I slowly, deliberately, pulled my left hand up. I slid my wedding ring off my finger. The platinum band was still warm from my skin. I looked at it for a long, silent moment. Then I placed it on top of the separation agreement. I turned away from the table. I walked past the kitchen, past the couch, to the sliding glass door. I opened it and stepped out onto the small balcony. The American afternoon air was cool and clean. The city sounds a distant siren. Traffic. The shout of kids playing felt real. I didn't know what would happen tomorrow. I didn't know if Grant would destroy Lucas's career. I didn't know if Joan and Richard were at the park. I didn't know what my life would be. Now that the safe future I had planned was gone, I just stood there. I took a deep breath, pulling the cold, fresh air all the way down into my lungs, and for the first time in 7 years, I felt like I could finally breathe. I knew, with absolute certainty, that this time, the script was mine. Thank you so much for listening to this story. Please let me know in the comments where you are listening from. I'd love to connect and hear your thoughts. Make sure to subscribe to Zoe Revenge Stories, like this video, and give it some extra love by hitting that hype button so more people can hear this story.